The problem is not that Putin is smart, which of course he's smart, but the real problem is that our leaders are dumb.
That was former President Donald Trump speaking at the annual CPAC conference and, of course, doubling down to praise Vladimir Putin yet again following Putin's invasion into Ukraine. Now, what's fascinating is Donald Trump has a long history of praising Vladimir Putin, but the majority of Americans, according to a new poll, believe that Putin would not have invaded Ukraine if Donald Trump were in charge. So let me give you the details of that poll, and then I'll explain exactly why that outcome is insane. So the poll by the Harvard Center for American Political Studies found that 62% of those surveyed believe that Putin would not have sent troops into Ukraine with Trump in the White House. In partisan terms, the survey found that 85% of Republicans and 38% of Democrats held that view. And while 38% of Democrats is not the majority of Democrats, it's still a pretty sizable portion of Democratic voters who feel this way. Now, 59% said that Putin only ordered the invasion because he saw weakness in Joe Biden. 41% said that the US president was not a factor in Putin's decision. Now, Trump, as we all know, well, at least I would hope we would all know, would absolutely take Putin's side. Why do I know that? Well, let me remind you of the long history that we can refer to where Donald Trump constantly took Putin's side over the American people. Let's watch.
Putin's a killer. A lot of killers. We got a lot of killers. Why you think our country's so innocent?
Just before Trump's inauguration, the president said he was open to lifting Russian sanctions. He goes a step further, proposing a cyber unit with Russia, the country that had just attacked the US. And I quote, an impenetrable cybersecurity unit so that election hacking and many other negative things will be guarded.
I was in Russia. I was in Moscow recently, and I spoke indirectly and directly with President Putin, who could not have been nicer.
After Putin kicked out US diplomats to retaliate against sanctions, the president thanked him.
I want to thank him because we're trying to cut down on payroll. I'm very thankful that he let go of a large number of people. We'll save a lot of money. Putin of Russia, 100%. Joe has lost it. In his best day, he wasn't a smart man. Everybody knows that.
Would you now, with the whole world watching, tell President Putin, would you denounce what happened in 2016, and would you warn him to never do it again?
My people came to me, Dan Coates came to me, and some others. They said they think it's Russia. I have President Putin. He just said it's not Russia. I will say this, I don't see any reason why it would be.
I mean, Putin told him, so he's just gonna take what Putin says at face value. He doesn't know why Putin would want to meddle in US elections. By the way, let's go to graphic 5 here because this is something that apparently many people have forgotten. It was Donald Trump who withheld military aid to Ukraine. Trump's July 25th, 2019 call with Ukraine's president is at the center of the House impeachment investigation. This was the first reason he was impeached, which is looking into Trump's pressure on Ukraine to investigate his political rival, the former Vice President Joe Biden, as he held back nearly $400 million in military aid to Ukraine. Now, that wording is from a CNN article just as Donald Trump was facing these impeachment investigations. And so to think that Trump would somehow be the person, he would be the cop who stops an invasion of Ukraine is laughable. Who are we joking here? Now, you might make the argument that Joe Biden is not a great president, you think he's weak, whatever, that's one thing. But to say that Trump would somehow be a better leader on issues pertaining to international relations is laughable, especially when we're talking about Putin.
It got asked at CPAC, do you have a message for Vladimir Putin? That's when you at least pretend that you're upset about this invasion and you say, look, if it was on my watch, it would never happen. And I'm telling Putin right now, if I get back in charge, there's gonna be consequences, etc. He's like, no, not particularly. That's what it is. No message at all. Because he's afraid if he looks into the camera and says something to Putin, Putin might not buy any more apartments in Trump Tower. Remember, the oligarchs, not Putin himself, although who knows where the money's coming from, but Russian oligarchs bought huge portions of Trump properties, okay? Especially when he was down and out, and it helped him a lot. So he's still thinking about his own money. So one of our members wrote in, like, wait, how, if the Russian ruble's not worth anything anymore, which currently that's the state of affairs, how's Trump gonna get paid on some of those properties? So Trump is probably worried about his own finances. You think that guy's strong? He's pathetically weak. And he's at his weakest when talking about Russia and Putin. That's where he betrays himself, and you know he's not an alpha. The minute he's scared, you know, whether it was the podium, when somebody, he thought somebody was gonna rush the stage, and he's like, ah! Like that reaction, you know, and the eagle in his office.
Or protesters outside of the White House.
Oh, and he goes and hides in a bunker.
Right, bunker boy.
And when it comes to Putin, like this, right?
No, but he's a strong man. Everyone knows this.
Come on, guys. I mean, but the thing is that this is where I get so frustrated at the Democrats, because they don't fight back effectively. So a lot of Democrats and independents still think that Trump is strong. What have you done? You've had 6 years to prove, and you have all the evidence in the world that the man is a weakling, an insecure, thin-skinned weakling. And they're still talking about, oh, but he's a bad guy. But they already know he's a bad guy. That's what they like about him. You have to undercut his strength. What is wrong with you guys? And now, to the point, look, Biden, how about Biden? Is he weak or strong? Well, we've shown you a lot of different ways that he's been weak here in America. Okay, oh, the Republican said something, I surrender, right? And he loves surrendering to Republicans. That's his favorite political tactic throughout his entire career. But credit where credit is due. On this, we were worried that he wasn't, initially the sanctions weren't tough enough. And then they acted. And SWIFT cut the Russians off from the rest of the world, that's the banking system, okay? And then they put sanctions on Putin, which Biden had not done in the beginning. And then he got, worked with allies against Switzerland and Monaco, where a lot of the Russian cash is hidden, to also act. And so far in the first 5 days, it looks like all of a sudden, Biden's pretty strong.
I mean, what else would you want Biden to do? Right?
Yeah, exactly. Because I don't want him doing anything more than this.
Yeah,
exactly. Right.
We're dealing with a nuclear power, okay? Like, we have, again, idiots in the United States who are calling for NATO to do some sort of military strike against Russia or Russian troops in Ukraine. That could spark a nuclear war. That is an incredibly belligerent and irresponsible thing to call for. So what do you want Biden to do? You want Biden to carry out some sort of attack like that really does put a lot more people at risk, right? It really would escalate the situation. No, but think about how Trump handled Kim Jong-un in the beginning, before they fell in love and started sending love letters to each other, literally. They were going back and forth about whose nuclear button was bigger. That was irresponsible, belligerent, and dangerous behavior. And luckily, it didn't escalate to something more than, what we ended up with. Whatever, it's laughable that Trump fell in love with Kim Jong-un and vice versa, but I'll take that over a new possible escalation of war with North Korea. But remember, Trump is this kind of guy who just kind of flies by the seat of his pants. Is that what they say?
Yeah, that's an unfortunate saying, but yes. Yeah. Okay, so guys, one more thing about Trump and Biden. So North Korea is a great example. So remember, when Trump wants to sound tough, he can sound tough. Before the love letters, he said, my nuclear button is larger than yours. So why isn't he saying that to Putin? North Korea also has nukes, also very, very dangerous. And he didn't mind threatening nuclear war with them at all, because he had no interest in North Korea. He has personal interest in Russia. So when it comes to Russia, he's like, Putin is a very lovely guy. I mean, if he says something, I instantly believe it. That's a weird starting point, especially for a guy as normally belligerent as Trump. So how did North Korea get him to fall in love? It's very easy. There's only 2 things that Trump cares about: his money and his ego. So once Kim Jong-un said, oh, you are a great leader, Trump was like, oh, am I? And that's why we're calling him love letters, because that's what Trump called them. And he said that they fell in love. All you have to do is and so to be fair to Trump in a hilarious way, maybe Putin didn't even pay him. Maybe he just told him, hey, your hair looks nice today. And Trump's like, oh my God. God, I'm in love. I will say nothing but nice things about you. Look at how pathetically weak that guy is. That's how insecure he is.
Yeah.
So you know there's no question that Trump is holding back from Russia, because when he doesn't hold back against political opponents, it is exceedingly obvious. And finally on Biden, this is the right balance. We got no love for the guy. We've criticized him probably more than any other show, certainly any show on the left, by an order of magnitude, right? If he was, we thought he was doing it wrong, we criticized him on this issue. But right now, they're devastating him with financial sanctions, and they are not going towards military action, which is super dangerous. And also remember, Biden pulled out of Afghanistan. So far in domestic policy, I'm deeply disgruntled with how he has handled things,
right,
to say the least. But on foreign policy, he's been pretty damn strong. And so Democrats, you might want to tell people the reality so that even 38% of your own voters don't think that Trump, the weakling, would have handled Putin any stronger.
One final bit of evidence indicating how Trump would have responded to Putin. I give you the advisor to Trump's acting Secretary of Defense. He went on Fox News, and get a load of what he thinks Ukraine should do.
I think we need to stay out of it. The American people think we should stay out of it. The Europeans think we should stay out of it. And we should stop shipping weapons and encouraging Ukrainians to die in what is a hopeless endeavor.
So when you say stay out of it, you mean no sanctions, no military aid, just let Russia take the portion of Ukraine they want to take?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
That was a top aide that Trump himself picked.
Yep.
And he wants to surrender to the Russians. So, what would Trump have done? Well, that's one of his top advisors. Apparently, he would have advised him to surrender. Trump has never been anything but ingratiating to Vladimir Putin. So very likely, he would have done way less than Biden. Or by the way, in a worst case scenario, since he's an idiot, maybe Putin would have insulted him and he would have been like, oh, that's it. Let's go to war. No, schmuck, no. You have to use your judgment and not be such a moron. So one of the first things I thought when Russia actually crossed the border was, oh, thank God Trump's not president. Because in either direction, it's a nightmare. It's a tough balance to get right. And Biden's gotten it right so far. He deserves a lot of credit if he keeps going in this direction. So please be honest.